Well, yeah, so basically today we're going to be doing the SCVP talk on Uttaradhyayana Sutra. It's now going to be in the 14th chapter. And just before I start, probably it would be nice if you can recite the Nokar mantra. And again, as I said, Ketan has been a long-standing adults class teacher. Just last week, sadly, his mom passed away, so it would be nice to recite prayers for his mom.
If everyone can close their eyes and join your hands. Thank you. Namo Arahantaram. Namo Namo. Namo Sitaram. Namo Namo. Namo Ayariyaram. Namo Namo. Namo Uvachayaram. Namo Namo. Namo Loye Savasahuram. Namo Loye Savasahuram. Esa Panchanamo Karo Savapava Parashara Mangala Rancha Savesim Patamang Havai Mangalam. Patamang Havai Mangalam. Patamang Havai Mangalam.
Thank you very much, Parvan. That was very nice. Thank you very much. Right. So, as I said, we'll be talking about chapter 14 of Uttaradhyayana Sutra. And the chapter is titled Issue Kariya. Now, before we actually discuss about the 14th chapter, it is actually a story of two sons. And they were the sons of Bhrigu Purohit and his wife Yasha. Now, the characters in this story followed from the story which was in the previous chapter, chapter 13. And in the previous chapter, I'll describe for people who actually did not attend the previous session, I'll very briefly describe because it's actually a continuation of the story in the previous chapter. So there was actually King Chandravatan Sak, and he was ruler of Saket. And his son actually became the king, and which was quite common at that time. When time came of age, they would actually become an ascetics. And then, so this king, he actually became an ascetic. And once when he was doing Bihar, he was accompanying a party of merchants. So there was a group of people going on business, and the Sadhu Maharaj was actually accompanying them, going from one town to the other town. However, during his gochri, that is when they're seeking alms, he became separated from the entourage, and he became lost in the jungle. Now, as you can imagine, with thirst and hunger and a lot of intense heat, he was actually feeling he became swooned, and he was actually becoming sort of delirious. Then actually 4 kids of a herdsman were in a pasture, and they saw this monk. So they approached him and they tried to help him out, so because they knew the jungle very well. As you might know, that whenever we go and meet Sadhu Maharajas, monks and nuns, and whenever we meet them, one of the things they bless us with is dharma labh. And this is a way whereby they're actually blessing us. And they're suggesting that, you've helped me, and whatever you're doing, this is the way they would say to bless us for our well-being. So just one second. And because of those blessings, the 4 children actually, when the time came, they actually also became monks themselves. So what happened is that out of those 4 kids, 2 of them practiced the religion diligently, whilst the other 2 became disenchanted due to dirty clothes and filthy. You can't have a shower. So they actually became quite disenchanted. Is this really monkhood? Is this how we have to live a life? So they were actually not. They were outwardly, you could see they're wearing white clothes, but internally they just didn't like the practice of Jain monks. When they passed away, all 4 of them actually became gods in heaven. Now, this is actually one of the fruits whenever monks or nuns actually pass away, we generally actually believe that they've done just the power of becoming, taking monkhood, they will actually be born in Sadgati. So that's why we revere our monks and nuns. So all of them actually became heavens in the gods in the heavens. Now, out of the two who actually hated being monks, they eventually had a couple of other lives coming along. So after their life as gods in the heavens, they got reincarnated in the womb of a slave maid. They were bit by a serpent and they died. The next birth, they were born as twin deers. A hunter shot them with a single arrow and then they died. Then another birth, they were born as geese. Fishermen killed them by twisting their necks. So kind of horrible death, one after the other. Eventually, they were born as twin sons of Bhuttadat and they were named Chitra and Sambhut. Now, in this life, there was a king's minister called Namuchi, and he was actually caught doing lewd activities, and he was sentenced to death. Now, Bhutta, so he was the father of these two kids. He was supposed to be the hangman. So Namuchi actually convinced Bhuttadat, please save my life. And on that condition, if you save my life, I'll educate your two sons. The kids become expert in many fields, especially music. Now, Bhuttadat's wife actually started having an affair with Namuchi. Can you imagine that this story is hundreds of years ago, yet some of the circumstances and things which happened are pretty much the same at that time, and now it's pretty much the same. So Bhuttadat decided to kill Namuchi. He was so annoyed, how could my wife be having an affair? However, the two boys, they actually had reverence for Namuchi because they said, look, he was our guru. He taught us so many things. So the two boys actually informed Namuchi that, look, my father is actually planning to kill you. So he then actually decided to escape. Then when he escaped, the boys actually were taught to become. They actually had learned the skills of music. So what happened is when the boys grew up, they actually then went to a different city. And once when they went to the different city, the kids started playing lots of music. But the Brahmins of that city, they said, who are these people here? They are of a different caste. They cannot come into our land. So they took law and order in their own hands, beat them and banished them out of the city. Now the two brothers became dejected and felt that, how can our caste overshadow our talent? Can you imagine these are the same kind of problems which we face right now, people of unfairness, and saying they became despondent and suicidal. So one of the two monks, Sambhut, went to seek for alms. So they became suicidal. So they went to a mountain and they saw a sage who told them that if you become monks, you lead a very honorable life. And this has happened quite so much in the past before, that people sometimes when you become monks and nuns, you could be having a very bad life. But once you change your status, people start bowing down to you and you get so much respect. So these two brothers then decided to become monks. Once when one of the two monks, Sambhut, went to seek for some alms, Namuchi recognized him because he had escaped to a different city and thought that he would be exposed if they noticed him. So he ordered his servants to kill him. Sambhut tolerated to a great extent. He was a sadhu. Remember, he was a sadhu. But the limit of his tolerance was tested. He says, how much more can I suffer? He then, after a long time, opened his mouth, and the sky of the entire city was engulfed with heat pouring out of the monk's mouth because of the fury. The king came to pray to the monk and pacify him. His brother, monk Chitra, arrived and the anger subsided. Now the king and the queen both bowed to the monk. The queen's long hair touched the feet of monk Sambhut. And at that time, his mind got agitated. And he made a resolution that if there is any fruits of my monkhood, let it be that I get pleasures and amusements of this world. He did not repent at this time of his death. So both were born in the first heaven after they died. Now Sambhut reincarnated as a son of a king and became a monarch. So imagine he had become he was a monk in his previous life, and after he died, he was born in the heaven, and after the heaven, he got reincarnated as a son of a king and became a monarch. Now, Chitra became son of a rich merchant, and he heard the sermons of some other monks and nuns, recollected his past life, and became a monk. So out of these two brothers, one of them became a monk, and the other one was become a big monarch. So Sambut, who was a monarch, was once watching a drama and thought he had seen this scene before. In deep contemplation, he recollected his past life. And now he was very eager to find out his brother. He composed half a verse. We were slaves, deers, geese, and untouchables, and gods. And then he doesn't know how the story continues further. So he asked everyone in his kingdom, can you please complete this remaining verse? So everyone in the kingdom was just reciting this kind of verse. We were slaves, deers, geese, untouchables, and gods. And everyone just was saying, and then they were looking for how can we actually complete the story. So once when monk, one of the someone in the city was reciting this. So he actually went into a garden. And in the garden, the gardener was actually reciting this verse. And at that time, the monk Chitra, he was actually there, and he heard this the verse. And then he completed the verse. This is our sixth birth in which we are separated. The gardener memorized this and informed the king. The king became curious. He says, gardener said he's not literate. He says, how did you do this? He says, I heard this from the garden. So the king now goes and visits the monk. And once when he goes, then he meets his brother in his former life. And then his brother is actually giving him some advice. Look, I know you're a monarch, but if you cannot become a monk, please start doing good deeds. However, his brother could not follow the advice. And his condition was like that of an elephant stuck in swamp. He was so engrossed as a monarch that it cannot, like an elephant cannot reach the dry land, although it can see it ahead. So monk Chitra attained salvation whilst his brother reincarnated in the seventh hell. Because can you imagine, as a king, he would have had lots of wars and fought a lot of people. So this is the story of the 13th chapter. Now let's come to this current chapter for this week. So to recap, the story begins with 4 sons of a cow herdsman who helped a monk who was lost in a jungle. So in the previous chapter, we described the lives of the 2 of the 4 children, Chit and Sambut. And they were the 2 boys who were disenchanted with the life of a monkhood. This chapter will look into the lives of the other 2 children who followed the monastic life very diligently, unlike their other 2 brothers. So they were born in the house of a very rich person after the life spent in the heavenly regions. And these 2 brothers became friends with 4 other children. So all 6, as life progressed, became ascetics. And upon their death, they were born in the first heaven. So just bear in mind the story. So the 2 out of the 4 herdsmen, we looked at 2 of the kids who actually were disenchanted with monkhood, and we looked at their life in the previous chapter. The other 2 kids, they followed diligently, and now they are actually them and 4 other friends now have become ascetics. When their lifespan in the heavenly region was over, then out of the 6, the 4 of them, then they had the next incarnation was one of them became King Isukara. So that's actually the title of this chapter. So he became King Isukara. The other friend became Queen called Kamlavati. And the other 2 became a Brahman couple, and they were called Bhrugo Purohit and his wife Yasha. So the remaining 2, who were the children of the cow herdsmen, they were still in heaven. Now, Bhrugo Purohit and Yasha were childless and very eager to have children. So the 2 gods in heaven knew that after the lifespan was going to be over, they're going to be born to Bhrugo Purohit and his wife. They thought that in the human birth, they should not forget about the Jain religion, which is called the Shraman religion. And therefore, they came to the house of Bhrugo Purohit, these guys as sages. Remember, we as humans have got an Odaric Sharir. So this is kind of our body. But if you're actually born either in hell or in heavens, you actually get a Vaikraik Sharir. With that kind of body, you're actually able to transform yourself. So can you imagine, like right now in this digital age, people can put so lots of filters and we can change our appearance, but that is for real. So as a monk, or if you're a heavenly being, or if you're in a hellish area, both people in both those regions, you're able to change your form from one form to the other form. So they were still in the heavens, these two, the divine beings. They came to earth disguised as sages. And they came to Bhrigu Purohit and his wife. The couple bowed to them with devotion. And the sages told them, look, we bless you and you'll be blessed with 2 children, but they will become monks in their childhood. So please do not obstruct them. Bhrigu Purohit and his wife were blessed with 2 charming boys. Fearing that they will become monks, they decided to leave the city because, they remembered the words of the sages. They said, we don't want to take any chance. So let's just leave this entire city. And when they went to a different city, they poisoned the minds of these young children, very young boys. The Jain monks appear to be simple and good externally, but they are ferocious. They keep weapons in their bags and they kidnap children. I don't know how many of you remember, even as kids, if they want to scare some kids, they told a Baba, say Baba, they'll capture you, they'll take you away. This is, we've even heard probably our grandparents or parents trying to scare the children when you're very young. So the parents told them, if you see the Jain monks, just run away from them, never approach them. So the kids were petrified of Jain monks. Whenever they saw them, they literally were very, they would just run away from them. So once the kids were playing in the garden under a huge tree and they saw some Jain monks approaching, they immediately remembered the words of their parents. And because there was no way to go, they quickly climbed up a tree and hid behind the leaves. It just so happened that the monks decided to take rest under the tree and they were just having their gochi with the simple meals. The boys are watching from the tree above that these monks are eating so compassionately. There was just no fear from these monks. And they're having a simple meal. What is there to be feared about these monks? So the fears disappeared, and through deep contemplation, they recollected their past lives. They came home and they asked their parents that we actually want to become Jain monks. They're very young boys. The parents, Bhrigu Purohit and his wife, were following the Vedic tradition, and they tried to convince the kids against becoming monks. Now, there was a rule at that time that if, suppose, a couple and either the children either die or they become monks, that means the couple do not have any children. So the rule prevalent at that time was that the king confiscates the wealth of the couple because they don't have any children. There's no one to inherit the wealth. So the wealth of the couple would actually be taken by the king. So the queen the word passed on in the city, and the queen heard about this. So she urged her husband, look, if these 2 boys become monks, please do not take the wealth of these 2 people, Bhrigu Purohit. This is very unjust rule of confiscating wealth of childless couple. Can you imagine the king and queen, although they had lots of power, but they were like lotuses and they remained untouched in spite of the immense wealth they had. Now, Bhrigu Purohit was a person who was following the Vedic tradition at that time. And Yasha, his wife, was a mediocre woman, sort of just happy with sensuous pleasures. So this entire chapter, which I'm going to talk about, is about a logical discussion between Bhrigu Purohit and his wife and their children who have asked them permission to become monks. Let's dive into the discussion. It's almost like a dialogue, which eventually leads to Bhrigu Purohit, Yasha, granting permissions to the children to become monks. They themselves become monks, and even the king and the queen also become monks, and they all attain salvation. Can you imagine what a sort of great ending? I mean, if this was a story, this is just a phenomenon, but this is actually a real life story that they all attain salvation. So just like Bollywood, like a Bollywood movie, there are lots of twists and turns, but unlike an illusionary happy ending in a movie, this is a real episode of a happy ending for all the 6 souls. So now let's start the dialogue. The 2 sons are saying, human life is transient. It's transient. It's short-lived. A lot of distractions. Lifespan is too short. Therefore, we wish to seek consent and become monks. I mean, such profound words. how many times we go to Pratna Sabha and we say, and yet we just get so stuck in our mundane routine. Now is the Bhruga Purohit, is the father. So the sons have told the father, he's convincing them the life is too transient. Now the father is saying, those who are well versed in the Vedas say that one who has got no sons cannot get good existence. There's a lot of importance on couples getting sons and sort of carrying on the family. Therefore, his father is saying, study the Vedas, feed the Brahmins. That's a very good thing. Feed the Brahmins, enjoy pleasures, get married, place your children as heads of the family, and then become praiseworthy monks. Lots of time. Religion when we become old, that's when we'll practice religion. This is youth is on our side right now. This is time to enjoy pleasures. Why sort of restrain ourselves? Let's just enjoy. Khai pine maja karo. Eat, be happy. And so this is very common then and also today. So the father was speaking due to the fuel of attachment and sort of and it's kind of delusional, subjected by infatuation. He was flattering his children with the allurement of wealth. The sons, they were replying, studying Vedas cannot be a savior. Feeding Brahmins cannot stop your anger and can even lead you to the seventh hell. One's parents or children cannot protect each other. Worldly pleasures are momentary and painful for a long time. Worldly pleasures are momentary and painful for a long time. They provide intense suffering and little joy. They are obstacles in attaining liberation. Enhancing worldly ties is a mine of great evil and misfortune. So this is what the kids are telling their father. One who does not abandon desires gets distressed by the fire of discontentment. Life becomes a cycle of running after wealth and pleasures, followed by old age and death. I have this, I don't have that. I must do this, I shouldn't do that. These are all fallacies and vain talks. Death embraces all, so why be negligent? Now the father is replying, people practice penances to get enormous wealth, women and pleasures. Now can you imagine, this is actually what some people could actually believe. And what does Jain religion say? This is like mithyatva. You're actually thinking, the people think, I'm doing upwas, I'm doing so much stuff, I'm doing reading scriptures, I'm doing all these kind of penances, but what's going to be the fruit of these penances? What do you want as fruits of these penances? I really want lots of wealth. I want women, I want pleasures. So when all these are feasible by you, the father is telling the kids, then why do you want to become ascetics? You're getting all of this. Why do you want to then now become monks and nuns, monks? So, and all this to get in the next birth, you have got them in your current birth right now. The sons are replying to the father. What do true followers on the path of religion have to do with wealth, relations, and pleasures? If you have taken a spiritual path, do you actually have any relations? We only want to become virtuous mendicants. Then father is replying, as fire is produced from wood, ghee from milk, oil from sesame seeds, all these appear invisible, yet is produced from them. Likewise, soul is produced in the body. So this is another school of thought. Lots of people, and if you look at it historically, the Shramanic religion, so there's a lot of different concepts of what is soul and what is body. So there's now this one thought saying that soul is produced by the body. So if my body perishes, then my soul is automatically going to perish. So my soul is not going to exist anymore, because the soul is produced in the body. So if my body, so a lot of the Hindu sometimes philosophy says, when I die, this is going to become earth, water, fire. The elements within my body are going to disintegrate, and the soul is just going to not exist anymore. So this is a logic which the father is giving based on his understanding of the Vedas. It takes place with the body and perishes as the body perishes. So this is so important, and what a different school of thought from the Jain philosophy. The sons are replying, without any sight, smell, touch, taste, and sound. This is the qualities of the soul. The soul does not have any sight. It's got no eyes, no smell, no touch, no taste, no sound. These are all properties of matter, Pudgal. Soul does not have any of these properties. The soul is formless. It has got no form. And it cannot be known by the senses. You can experience it, but you cannot know it. You can't say, I can see this. Formless existence is eternal. So this is another very important philosophy of the Jain tenets, that our soul, no one has created our soul. There is no one who is created, no one's going to destroy our soul. Each soul is independent from one another. Bondage is created by internal defects of 4 kashais, rag and dvesh. So that's where the karmas are attracted to our soul. The 4 kashais, krodh, man, maya, lobh, rag and dvesh, which is the basis for the cycle of birth and death. This is what the kids are telling their father. We did sins until we were not aware of religion. You are trying to discourage us and want to look after our welfare, but now we do not want to do any more sins. The entire universe is in pain, oppressed from all sides, and continuously moving through the wheel of time. We will not experience any happiness living in this house. The father now is replying back to the sons. What is this universe suffering from? What is it surrounded with? What do you mean by amog? So that's a term which comes in the sutra. I want to find out more. So the sons are replying to their father. Respected father. They are again, out of all this dialogue, they are still very respectful to their father. Says, respected father, you should know very well that all living beings in the universe are oppressed by death, old age, and the continuous wheel of time, which is called amogha. Passing nights never return. Adni raat jati rahi, but is not going to come back again. The night time of irreligious people becomes fruitless and unsuccessful. Let's ponder on our current lifestyle. Our nights are spent on social media, TV, eating, drinking. So that's what's gone. It's not going to come back. Those who practice religious and meritorious deeds, their nights become fruitful and successful. So this is showing the importance of time. Okay, how do you want to make most use of your time? And that's why they actually want to become monks. So the father is now replying to the sons. Sons, first we acquire right faith and practice partial vows, living in the house. So now the father is now, can you see, slight bit of transformation is occurring in the father's mind. So he says, he's now understanding the logic which the children are explaining to him. So he says, okay, first we acquire the right faith and practice partial vows, living in the house. And after that, in old age, we will become mendicants. This is a very common argument. Look at all of us right now. We have got some faith in our religion. We are practicing partial vows, anuvrats. And then, so some people, there's a very common argument that right now, let's become householders and then we can become monks and nuns later on. If you look at us, who knows, maybe if you don't become monks and nuns in this life, at least we can aspire to be in the next life. Youth is to enjoy, and religion is practiced by Dada, Baz, and the oldies. This is a common philosophy right now. So the sons are now responding back to the father. Say, dear father, who has friendship with death? Can you look at those words? Does anyone have friendship with death? And who can escape death or believes I shall never die? Only such people can wait for tomorrow. Such profound words from the children to their father. So the father is now responding. We shall accept monkhood now. We don't want to be reborn again. We have experienced pleasures infinite times in the past, and there is no pleasure that has not been experienced. This is again also very, very important to understand. All of us, we believe that we've had infinite lives. And if you look at even from a mathematical point of view, with the power of infinity, we must have been through all sorts of plus and minus, all sorts of life forms. So we all must have experienced extreme enjoyment, and we must have also experienced extreme pain, just because we had infinite number of lives in the past. So it just seems that through all permutations and combinations, we must have been everything. We must have been born as animals. We must have been born in the hellish regions. We may have been born in heavens. So we must have experienced through all this cycle. So his father is saying, we must have experienced these pleasures infinite times in the past. and there is no pleasure that has not been experienced. We now want to destroy attachment with our firm faith. So now the father is convinced. At this point, now the father is convinced and he says, I now really agree that what my two sons are saying is correct. And the father himself is now saying, I'm convinced, now I want to become a monk myself. What a total transformation. Right from someone who was sort of, totally not believing in this and gradually shifted his thought process. Now the father is telling to his wife, I cannot live in this house without my sons. Time has come for me to become a mendicant also. Tree is adorned by its branches. And if they are cut off, it remains only a stump. Right now, if you look at winter, this tree is just, there are no leaves, they're just barren. And it just remains like a stump. A bird without wings, a king without warriors, a merchant without goods are all helpless. So I am without my sons. Just look at the analogy. A bird without wings. What can a bird do without the wings? Can a king really be without warriors? How much budget does the government spend on defense right now? All governments. So you cannot have a king without warriors. You cannot have a merchant without goods. They're all helpless. And the father is saying, I am also without my sons. So the wife tells to the husband, we have accumulated objects and pleasures. Let's enjoy them fully. And then we will take the path of renunciation. So now the wife is going through a similar transformation. It's too much of a shock to say, yes, let's become a monk or a nun. So he says, let's do it gradually. Husband is now telling to the wife, we have enjoyed many such sensual pleasures. Our young age is passing. I am not renouncing these amusements for the sake of divine pleasures. I will practice the ascetic order, keeping my mind stable in gain and no gain. Samyak pleasure and pain. It's very, very important to understand, I'm not doing this becoming a sadhu or a monk, just that I want to have the divine pleasures. Oh yeah, I'll be born into the heavens. And then we'll have all these pleasures. The wife is now telling husband, why live a life which is like swimming against the current? It's tough. Can you imagine monks and nuns' lifetime at a Khawan Umaidu walking, sort of in the intense heat? Enjoy pleasures with me. The ascetic order, walking bare feet is really painful. The husband is now telling the wife, as a snake casts off his skin and moves free and easy, my sons have renounced the pleasures. So why should I be left alone and not follow them? Just as a rohit, so this is the word which is in the scriptures, is a type of fish, breaks through the fisherman's net. In the same way, great penances through restraint, the mendicants break the chain of karma. Amazing analogy. What is the motivation of becoming a monk or a nun? Through all this restraint, why sort of suffer? And the goal is, I really want to get rid of these chains of karma, which has been with us since infinite times in the past. So now the wife is saying, if my sons and husband are renouncing, what will I do by myself? Why should I not follow them? At this stage, now, husband, wife, and their two children are now totally resolute in taking the asceticism. Hearing that the entire family was now going to renouncing, the king and the queen were quite surprised. So King Isukara wanted to confiscate the entire wealth of the family. However, Queen Kamalavati stepped in. So now he decided, look, first there was the issue of just the two kids not being there, so we could confiscate the wealth. But now the entire family is becoming monks, and then the wife is becoming a nun. So now I can confiscate the entire wealth. So the queen is saying to the king, "O king, you want to confiscate the large property left behind by the Brahman? Can you tell me which person eats vomited food? That person is never praised." Can you imagine the queen is telling the king, do we actually eat vomited food? Our own, even if we have vomited ourselves, will we take the same food back in? It's disgusting. No way, we will not do that. So if you want to get the wealth of the entire universe, it will not satisfy you. This wealth will not save you. So the queen is now telling the king, where are your limits? Even if you were to get the wealth of this entire kingdom, it will not satisfy you. O king, when you die, all this wealth will be left here. Therefore, O king, in this world, there is no savior besides religion. As a bird does not delight being behind a cage, so I also. it's very, very important. Many monks and nuns say that all of us here, like, people, we feel sorry for people who are in prisons. But what do the monks and nuns say? You are in golden cages. Many times in their Vyakhyan, they've said, all of us, we are like in golden cages. We feel we are free, but it's like, oh yeah, we've got all this gold and all this wealth in front of us, but it's still a cage. We're still not free. So she's saying that as a bird does not delight being behind a cage, so I also. Hence, I also want to become a nun. So the queen is now saying, I want to become a nun. Indulging in pleasures, foolish people are not realizing that in this world, everyone is engulfed by attachment and aversion. Having enjoyed pleasures and vomiting them at the right time, the self-seeker wants to renounce, becoming light as air, move like the breeze with delight. Just as a fine pavan autoe, just that's how monks and nuns are. They've got no attachments and they just move through life with such divinity. So it's like a breeze, they're moving like a breeze. The pleasures in our hand are all transient. And taking the example of Purohit family, we should also emulate them. Have you seen vultures who revolve around the flesh? And when the flesh disappears, the vultures go? Similarly, I wish to wander as a nun, renouncing all pleasures and passions which are like flesh. I don't want to go revolve around these passions and pleasures. I just want to go away. I want to renounce them. Acknowledging that the worldly pleasures are like a vulture with flesh and cause this increasing in cycle of birth and death, one should be also very doubtful as a snake is of a large ego. Just as an elephant breaks the fetters and wanders in the forest, in the same way, we should also wander and attain salvation. O king, this is what I've heard from the enlightened souls. So both the king and the queen also embrace renunciation. And it so happened that they all became ascetics, and through intense, the sadhana, they all attained liberation. So this actually is the end of the story, and it's such a moving tale it's kind of quite amazing to see that even if you look at it in our personal experiences right now, many times our own children have got much more wisdom than the parents themselves. They can sometimes tell us things, and we can actually learn from our children ourselves. So I think it's got a lot of wonderful messages with this entire story, that how we can learn from the children, how the children were so determined, and how through a lot of politeness and courtesy on both sides. But then if our children says anything against us, parents might even shout at them, "Who are you? What do you know?" The children are very respectful to the parents, and the parents also replying them in a lot of respect. So a lot of wonderful messages here. And as I said, Uttaradhyana Sutra is one of our agams, and a wonderful message, inspires us to become monks and nuns. Maybe not in this lifestyle, but at least even if the seeds are sown in our mind, then at least one day, hopefully in the future lives to come, we can follow that path. So I think on that basis, I'll open it up if there's any questions on this story or any discussions you might want to have.
Any questions, anybody? I didn't see any questions in the chat, but if anybody's got any questions, please do raise them now. I think you captivated everybody. There, go ahead.
Sorry, can I ask a question, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, go ahead.
It's Rashmi. My question does not connect this story. But what I wanted to ask was that, if you are in Bharat Kshetra, you're born here, but it's a Membaran Pamo, so is there any chance that somebody would be born in Mahavidev's Kshetra?
Now, I think it would be only very evolved souls who can actually find out where they're going to be born next. So we all aspire to and we all hope for. But I think unless someone is a Keval Gnani, no one can then say where your next birth is going to be. So essentially, we all hope and aspire, because I share the same sentiments as you do, because there's a living Tirthankar in Mahavir Kshetra. So, even more than being born in the Devlok, in the heavenly regions, one would aspire to be born in Mahavir Kshetra. And you could, and you know, if you could hear the Vani of Simandar Swami or even 20 other Tirthankars in that entire region, yeah, that would be, you know, the what we would all hope and aspire for. But to answer your question, it would be very, very difficult for anyone to actually then say that I've done this, and this, and therefore I'm going to be guaranteed my next birth here. You all aspire that, you know, just by pure logic, me sara kaam kera che, I've done well. And if you have not done good things, even you atone for your sins. Okay, in the past, I might have done something wrong, and I really, you know, I'm really sorry for what I've done. So through all that entire process, we just hope that we are born there. But to the best of my knowledge, no one can for sure tell you, or anyone can say, I'm not even sure if monks and nuns, they might, through their advanced spiritual sadhana, they might know, if some of them know, but I think it's not very common for them people to it's not like a prophecy, like you go to an astrologer and saying, oh yes, I can see what's written here, and this is what's going to happen.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Any other reflections on the story or anything? I think in essence, you know, I think it's all trying to say, as I mentioned before, how we can get inspired from our children, how the children, it's in a way a reversal of story. You know, generally you think that the older we become, the wiser we become. But here you can actually see wisdom on young shoulders and how they transform their parents and even the king and the queen. A lot of other messages here that many of, you know, all our interactions right now, you know, we've got our family. And if you look at even many of the Kalpa Sutra and many of the other stories, there's a lot of connection between us that, you know, I might have my own wife, my own children. There's been some connections which has been coming through lots of life forms. So, you know, that sort of carries through. So, but eventually we all hope that we all embark on the spiritual path. And, you know, whilst we feel about, you know, we are all interested in the welfare of our family, we all want them to succeed well, but even spiritual progress is a very important element in this entire process. So, you know, we really hope that together with education, with money and everything else which follows, but imparting spiritual knowledge to our children, you know, hoping well should be an integral part of our lifestyle.
Absolutely, Rajeevbhai. I think it's such an important thing to remember, isn't it? Sometimes we get so carried away in this worldly life. I really like that part about that cage, you know, the golden cage. You get so attracted by pleasures and we just forget we practice spirituality, but sometimes we just, you know, we go towards worldly life, don't we? And it's very important to kind of put your feet on the ground and realize where we are, where we're going, and our ultimate goal in life. Not just to it's not just to be here for 40, 50 years or, you know, 100 years. There's more to life than where we are now, and especially children and other people. They teach us so much, and it's a really I really like the story that you gave. Yeah, very inspiring.
And I think this is a testament. I mean, the fact that, you know, we've got people joining classes like this is an inspiration, because if we as parents do not sort of engage in spiritual activities, you can't expect our children to follow suit. So, you know, we have to lead by example. So I think, you know, what SCVP is doing and having the classes, it's I think this is a great thing which we are imparting besides the normal academic and extracurricular activities which we're doing. I think this is an integral part, and I think, you know, it will be very helpful for us and for our children, you know, to carry the morality and the spirituality with them as a progress in life.
Absolutely correct. Yeah.
Is there any other questions? Otherwise we can then just recite the prayers. And anyone else? Parulben, would you be kind enough to recite the closing prayers?
Just let me go and get the book and I'll do it. Hold on.
Jitendra,
is there any next week, any messages?
Yeah. So no school next week. There's no adult class next week. We resume back on the 25th with Hinaben. She'll be talking about chapter 18. So hopefully, please do join us again same time at 8:15 on the 25th. In the meantime, we'll wait for Bhagwan to recite the prayer, but do ensure the next week, break.
Chittari Mangalam, Arihanta Mangalam, Siddha Mangalam, Sahu Mangalam, Kevali Panato Tamo Mangalam, Chittari Lokuttama, Arihanta Lokuttama, Siddha Lokuttama, Sahu Lokuttama, Kevali Panato Tamo Lokuttama, Chittari Sharam Pavachami, Arihante Sharam Pavachami, Siddhe Sharam Pavachami, Sahu Sharam Pavachami, Kevali Panato Tamo Sharam Pavachami.
Thank you very much. Jai Jinendra.
Thank you.
Jai Chandra.
Good weekend.
Thank you.